From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Ticats Today with Steve Milton.
It's Monday, June 24th. This is Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton. Just back from Regina, and it's time to face the music. I'd have to say that music right now feels somewhat discordant, kind of jarring in its lack of harmony, and not just because the Tiger Cats were beaten 36-20 in Saskatchewan's home opener last night. Well, mostly because they were beaten, as that dropped them to 0-3, which is not at all what they or their supporters imagined when this season began. Still lots of time to get things on the right track, but what is a trifle bothersome is that while there were some encouraging signs last night, that's Shemar Bridges' work at receiver, some decent drives, Jamal Peters' interception, Kyle Wilson's tackling among them, there were, to these eyes, fewer of them this week than in the first two games, both of which the Ticats had a chance to win near the end. Now, developing a team with many new players and a new head coach is not always a straight-ahead line, but from an evolution standpoint, to me, this one veered a bit sideways. It was the second time in two road trips that the Ticats have fallen behind in the early going. In Calgary in the season opener, they were down by 15 points, 19-4, by late in the second quarter. And last night in Regina, they were down 17-0 by the end of the first quarter. After giving up 10 points in the final 2 minutes last week to Saskatchewan, to be surrendering another 17 in the first 15 minutes of this one was not the start they wanted, as Levi Mitchell, among others, said afterwards.
Not the start, not the middle, not the ending, right? Yeah, trying to get rid of the losses there and get rid of the mistakes, and we had a lot of mistakes early on. I mean, obviously, give the fans credit; they made it loud, and with the offense we run, we got to be locked into details early on and make sure that we as a whole look at ourselves and kind of take care of what we can get better in that sense of playing in a road stadium. And just myself personally, just take care of the football, trust the read and move on.
We'll continue with Bo shortly, but first back to the opening serve. The Ticats lost the turnover battles in each of their first two games, but that was because they didn't create any. They surrendered only one in each game, including that unlucky and fateful deflection off Tim White near the end of last week's game. Last night, they got their first takeaway of the year, a nice bit of coverage by Jamal Peters for his first interception as a Ticat that prevented the first quarter trouble from becoming even worse. But that was it for the whole game. They turned the ball over 5 times themselves, 3 times on interceptions, including a pick six by former Ticat Jameer Thurman and 2 fumbles, both of them critical. The first was on the opening kickoff by Lawrence Woods III, and a couple of plays later, it was already 7-0 with barely a minute gone. And the second was by Mitchell himself at the end of the Ticats' opening drive of the second half, as he rolled left but was stripped of the ball from behind at the Saskatchewan 5-yard line, as they were about to close the gap of what had already been narrowed to an 18-7 deficit. Mitchell said that was part of a number of details that the Ticat offense had not attended to well enough.
Details just as far as the process of the offense, right? Like making sure that we're not, myself not lifting my leg on silent count if the guard's not looking, making sure we're on the right cadence every time. We just had too many pre-snap penalties, I think, continue to back us up momentum-wise when we felt like we were driving. And then, just got to own up to, 4 turnovers. So fumbling the ball down there, scores, 18-7. At minimum, we get a field goal and make it a 1-score game. So, they hit, again, give them credit. They ran a good scheme. But when I pull that ball down and try to run, I can't let that, D-lineman get the ball out.
Having to essentially abandon the run because of the early deficit, Mitchell took what the defense gave him and did complete 29 of his 45 passes for 295 yards, including a beautiful 41-yard touchdown to Shemar Bridges and another major to Keandre Smith, his third TD in as many games. But Mitchell's 2 third-quarter turnovers, one at either end of it, dulled any real comeback chances. His fumble was on the Ticats' first drive of the third, and on the last possession of the third, his pass was deflected by a Riders defender into the arms of the intense Thurman, who ran it back for a touchdown and a 25-7 lead. Pretty hard to come back from that.
Bad read. Try to make a throw. Letting film kind of lie to me on where the will linebacker was playing that entire time, but he did a good job of reading the route and jumping the ball and tipping it up, and Thurman did a good job finishing it.
The Ticats had just too many shortcomings in this game. Tim White rarely got open under concentrated coverage and was held to no catches, although the attention that he created did create some space for Bridges, Smith, and Stephen Dunbar. They let Trevor Harris advance the ball, again, too easily. For the second time this season, they failed to have an onside kickoff travel that required 10 yards. They took 11 penalties. They punted on their first 6 possessions and 8 of their first 10, and let Saskatchewan power back A.J. Willett muscle his way to too many extra yards. In a twilight that threatened tornadoes and lightning strikes, there was a brutal wind, and the Ticats scored only 7 points when they had it at their backs. The Riders scored 28. And most devastatingly, Hamilton was unable to take advantage of Harris's departure late in the second quarter with a left knee injury. That put the game in the hands of Shea Peterson, essentially the short yardage quarterback who'd completed only 4 CFL passes prior to Sunday. He didn't light anything up with his arm, but did enough to maintain most of the early scoring gap, including getting a short yardage touchdown himself. Here's head coach Scott Milanovich.
I'm going to have to see the film. I mean, there was a number of things that went wrong. We had a lot of first and extra longs early in the game. We had a couple, I think we had 4 second and extra longs, which to me obviously says that we weren't doing well enough on first down. And particularly when you start into the wind like that, you've got to stay ahead of the sticks, and we weren't able to. We had a good shot there. We were down on the 5-yard line, 2nd and 5, and we turned it over. And then, we should have at least been able to cut that to a touchdown game. Stayed in the game. I think things could have been different, but again, we put ourselves in too big of a hole, and we weren't able to fight back. We weren't able to be clean enough.
Milanovich is right, and they'll have to be a lot cleaner next week because they're back on the road on Sunday, this time in Ottawa, for their first meeting with an Eastern team. They need this one because they're the only club in the division without a win. A moment here to recognize Bridges, who had 9 catches, 4 of them on second down for a total of 113 yards, and also recovered a short kickoff. He now has 22 grabs and 270 yards in his first 3 games as a pro, and just keeps doing what the team asks. Encouraging, and that's a word that was in short supply last night, as Milanovich intimates.
Yeah, I thought he played hard. I thought he played tough. I don't know how many catches he had, but that's kind of, when you get behind in the games, they're staying deep, they're taking Tim away, and they're giving you the underneath stuff. And give credit to Bo for the most part, other than a couple decisions. He was taking it when it was there. I think everybody's very disappointed. I know I am. I'll only speak for myself. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with the way we played, whether we coached tonight. The buck stops with me, and I got to do a better job for these guys.
Our buck stops here. Thanks for joining us, and please drop in for tomorrow's episode, our regular Tuesday date with John Salavantis. I'm already looking forward to Coach Sal's singular take on what he saw over the weekend. This has been Ticats Today, and I'm Steve Milton.
This has been Ticats Today with Steve Milton. Catch it on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.